Yeah, well, I suppose we've had a few things last week just in terms of the domestic front. I mean, if you were to sort of probably shape it into a bit of a picture at the moment, I mean, I think what really is going on right now for the domestic case for the Aussie dollar is very much that sort of accelerated vaccine rollout and perhaps some, I suppose, doubts as to whether the RBA will go ahead and backflip on their planned taper at tomorrow's meeting. But in particular, and I think we'll sort of flesh this out in this particular episode, of course, is that it's very much a play on the US dollar right now. We've seen a big drop in the US dollar from its year-to-date highs. It pretty much hit those levels, a couple of weeks ago and has been faded ever since. So, that's of course really tied back to some of this soft data we've seen out of the US recently, the most recent of which was Friday night's non-farm payrolls numbers. So, we've got an Aussie dollar that's sort of back on the tears. You can sort of see there as well, a really nice technical setup there for a little while where we saw the RSI bottoming out at the same time that there was a break out of a downward sort of sloping trend, or a downward trend channel. Sorry, got that out eventually. That sort of did, I suppose, catalyze this move from a technical point of view. But like I said, it's very much tied back to that US dollar at the moment, that sort of delayed path potentially for tapering from the Fed. And we've got a little bit of momentum in the Aussie now, and that is crucial going into tomorrow's RBA meeting.
So if you were going to trade it going into that meeting, Carl, what position would you have on?
Well, I mean, I'd have a short-term view and a long-term view. One's highly speculative, and you can almost say it's a bit of a punt based on whether they do, reverse their decision to taper or not. My personal view is that they're going to disappoint the markets again. That's almost my rule of thumb when it comes to the RBA. Whenever the markets think that they'll, ease or be more accommodative, they tend to take a step back. I suspect that they'll continue to push back on the pent-up demand kind of argument, plus that argument that monetary policy, from a practical point of view, probably won't do much to help lockdowns and the economy in the short term. So they'll say, no, we're going to stick to tapering. That's my point of view. That happens, then quite naturally, I think we'll see a little bit of upward momentum in the Australian dollar. Obviously, the inverse of that is if they do taper, I think that'll give a little bit of a hit to the downside. That's the very short-term play, and you're basically just taking a bet on the event on that particular one. However, like I said, the broader play at the moment for the Aussie is that weaker USD. So I'll be following that more as the signals to sort of buy, further weakness in the USD as a bit of a signal to perhaps buy into the Aussie dollar. Out of that event tomorrow, still, if we get the RBA effectively suggesting that it will remain on course to taper this month and continue this sort of path towards quote unquote normalized monetary policy, that's going to be a positive for the Aussie. You buy into that kind of event once you actually know the information rather than prior to it. And you would be sort of watching whether we get a bigger reversion, perhaps towards that sort of 200-day moving average, very close to 76 cents at the moment. Clearly we're seeing that momentum build in that direction.